Double Shutter, aka Shutbox, is a very fun single-player game that my family loves, where you roll dice and put down tiles adding up to the value you rolled. Since this game is simple, fun, and single-player, I thought it would be a perfect candidate for a calculator game. Here it is, Shutbox on the calculator. But before I show you how this works, let me first explain the rules of Shutbox. The game is very simple. You roll the dice and put down tiles that add up to the value of the dice until all the tiles are down. So in this case, I rolled a 5 and a 1, which adds to 6, and I put down a 6. Now if I roll something larger, like a 10 for example, I can put down tiles that add to 10. So I can either put down a 9 or a 1, or an 8 and a 2. I can also put down a 2 and then the 8 that's behind it in the next row. So I can always put down tiles that I can currently see. And the goal is to shut all the tiles by the end of the game. The only nuance is that once I get down to the digits 1 through 6, I can just choose to roll one die at a time. So that's the goal, put down all the tiles. Here is my version of the game. Once you start it up, it draws all your tiles, and you have 3 buttons, one to end the game quickly so you can restart, one to roll a single die when your value is just 1 through 6 left, and one to roll both dice. So just like in real Shutbox, I will roll both the dice. I got an 11. So in this case, I can move the cursor around and I can go over 9. Once I'm over 9, I press the enter button. It shuts that tile down. And once I'm over the 2, click it again, shuts that tile. Now that I've put down values that add up to the values I rolled, I can roll again. 7, go over to 7, shut it. An 8, another 7, I can put a 6 and a 1. Another 8, I'll put a 5 and a 3. Another 7, a 9, an 8. An 8 again, I'll put down a 4 and a 4. So now I'm in the situation where I have only 6 through 1 left, so I could roll a single die if I wanted to, but I still have so many values that I'm just going to roll 2 dice. An 11, so I'll put down the 5 and the 6. Now a 3, 2, 1 left. Now I will just roll a single die. A 3, okay. I'll roll a single die again. A 2, okay. So now if I roll a 1, I win. If I roll anything else, I lose. So 1 out of 6 chance. Wow, that's Shutbox. I did not expect that to happen on video. So once all the tiles are down, I re-roll, and it says Shutbox. I've won. That's actually quite crazy that's happened on video. I think that's only the 3rd time it's ever happened to me. But you can see all the mechanics. You can put down many tiles at a time. You can put down tiles in the front row and then the back row. It's really just like real Shutbox. So I'll now go over the code for how this works. So here's the code as usual. This code will be on my website, which will be found in a link in the description. I really only want to highlight 2 main things about this code, since the rest is like 90% graphics, just turning on lines and pixels and points. So the first main thing I want to highlight is that the beginning of this code looks a lot different than normal. Normally, when we see this code, it's always function off, clear draw, axes off. But this has an if q is not equal to some random number, then go to 2. You're probably wondering what that is. Well, this utilizes a unique function in TI Basic and TI-84 Plus coding, which is that all variables are universal. So if I set q to be some number in a code, and then leave that code and run a different one, q is still going to be that number. So what this code does is that the first portion of this code up until line 57 is actually a subprogram. And so later in the code, I can set q to be this random number and then run this program itself. And so then it's going to go back to the top. It's going to start looking down and it's going to say, if q is not equal to that variable, skip this portion, meaning go to label 2, which is right after the subprogram. But if it is this random number, then quickly change it to 0 because we don't want this number sticking around at all, and then run the subprogram. And then at the end, return, meaning return back to where the function was called in the first place. So this is one way to make a subprogram. The other way is to just make it a completely separate subprogram. It can be called Z Shutbox, but that's less convenient. You have to download 2 programs and it starts cluttering up your program's list. This is a very unique way to do it, of setting a variable to be some number that is never ever going to be in your calculator normally, unless it's an extreme coincidence. And that way you can put everything on one program. So after this subprogram, it's doing all your normal stuff, clearing stuff, drawing all the lines and doing the graphics. And then before the main repeat loop starts, where it starts asking you for a key input and then changing your cursor and doing stuff, it's storing the screen. So what's happening is that it's making a save state. So when I roll the dice, here I got a 10. If I put down numbers that are not equal to 10, like if I put down a 6 and a 5 and I try to re-roll, it's going to reverse everything. So here I'll put down a 10 just for example, 2 5s. And now I want to put a 7 down. If I put a 4, 3, 2, 8, 7, and then press graph again, it's reverting back. So every time I roll and it's correct, it saves the whole screen so that when I do incorrect things, it can just redraw or recall that picture very quickly. And so after everything is correct and I roll the dice and put the correct numbers down and then re-roll, it's going to store that picture so that anytime I am making an error, it can just recall that picture and then recall the other variable, which is where the cursor was. So this is a really, really fast way to fix the screen. Otherwise, you would have to start writing lines of code to erase these tiles that have been put down in error and then putting them back up. That would be a lot more work than just saving the screen and redrawing it. So other than those two unique features, the code is pretty normal, other than it's just a lot of lines and texts and pixels and points. But as you can see, once the main loop ends, and that means that you won, it's going to draw Shutbox on the screen like we saw earlier. And so those are all the main features of the game. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.